Hey everyone, I have a compilation of all of the fall DIYs that I've done so far this year. It's going to be a long one, so get comfy and we're going to go ahead and get into them. So we are starting off with this gigantic picture from Hobby Lobby. Original price was $20. I paid like $6.50. Go check out Hobby Lobby because they have a lot of their spring collection on sale and that didn't look like spring to me. I did do a full coat of the Nantucket Blue from Folk Art, and now I am just going over that with some white wax from Folk Art as well. I was channeling my inner Unicorn Dust Designs. She just recently did a couple of videos where she did a lot of white wax stuff, and I loved it, so I'm gonna make some too. So I did, like I said, a whole coating of it, but then I actually do go back and try to give a little bit more detail into like all of those little grooves and everything. And once you kind of like layer it on however much you want to, and then I'm going to wipe it off with a paper towel and then go back with a little sponge to give it a little bit smoother of a look, if that makes any sense to you. I think it might. So here it is once you've gotten like the full like coating on there. And sorry, you keep hearing noises because I talk with my hands and I keep like banging into my desk. So like I said, I am going to just go back after that first coat has thoroughly dried. I did it the next day and I just wanted to add a little bit more detail because it wasn't coming across as much as I wanted it to. It would just look like a solid coat of it, which is fine. You know, that was a nice look to it as well, but I wanted to give a little more detail into all of those little grooves that are in this little picture. Well, not so little picture. And I thought I was done, but then I was like, you know what? It needs a little something more to make it look a little bit more French country-ish. And here are some rub-on transfers that I got from Plaid. I get them off of their website. They are a folk art brand, so sometimes you find them at Joann's. Sometimes you can find them online at Amazon. I'll link it if I can, but these just kind of added like just the right touch. I held it on and used a popsicle stick, and then here I am just pulling it off. What I do is I pull it off really slowly and I hold one corner of it. That way I can see it on the film if it didn't take. But it did, so it looks just perfect, I think. And of course I'm going to style it with some gorgeous leaves. Those are all from Dollar Tree, just to give it another fall touch. Now I've got the top part of a photo box. It's like a wood photo box. Random, I know. And I'm going to just do a full coat of the Waverly chalk paint in plaster on the top, and then I'm going to take the folk art wood tint in walnut on the sides. Now taking my gorgeous Couture transfer, I am going to do a lot of this right here. What you're seeing right now is called fuzzing. I am a Couture designer, so if you are interested in any of them, let me know. I'd love to help you pick out some, or I could definitely have, I'm going to have all of the ones I used today linked. The most of them are from one sheet. I did use like a little part of another one just so I could give it a little bit of a fall touch. So you smooth it all down once you've got it placed. And now we're just going to take our paste. This is in the color Eucalyptus. And I am just going to plop it all on top of my transfer. And then I'm just going to rub it all in there, get it wherever I want it. I'm going to skip out on the word. There's a little word on the bottom. I skipped out on that part because I'm going to put in a couple of them and I didn't want it to be too wordy. There's going to be words on it in a minute. I just didn't want it to be too wordy. You don't really need a lot. A little bit goes a really long way. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I did do some wax on top of the paint. They make a wax specifically for this purpose, and I'll have that linked for you below too. So now there's another part of this transfer. It came in a really big sheet where I had, I believe, 3 different of these little plant things. We're going to just go with that. And see, I've got all 3 of them. I used them and I just kind of let this one kind of like trail off the side a little bit. And I just thought it was a really pretty touch. It's just going to bring in, like I said, some of that very shabby chic French country kind of look. I'm sticking with all these same colors. Most of this work I did with my mini squeegee, but then I'm going to pull in my multi-tool. I made a joke. I always said, like, this is like the Gerber of chalk. if you know what a Gerber is, leave me like a little fun emoji down below so I know that you know what I'm talking about, where I'm going with this. And then I've got this Thankful and Blessed part. This came off of like a little pack of 3 from like obviously a fall collection. And I am using the color that I don't remember. Hold on, I'm looking at it. I'm going to use the color Colonial Blue on the wording, and then I'll use eucalyptus on the little sprig things that are on the sides of it. I thought it was cute. It kind of like tied it in. It kind of kept it not like super spring looking to me. It made it, you know, it kind of brought us into a little bit more like fall. And I was trying to keep with this same color palette. You know what I mean? Like I've got the green, I've got the blue. You're going to see more of all of these colors here in a minute too. So I was like, this is just kind of keeping us all in, you know, the really pretty same family. It really takes like no time at all for this stuff to dry. Like by the time I was done cleaning off the stencils, they were just done. So here you go. Super pretty. On to our next DIY. I'm taking these old candle holders. I've had these things for probably at least like 5 or 10 years, something ridiculous. You can't really see them very well. They've definitely faded a lot. I am just going to give them 2 coats of Nantucket Blue. And it's just going to be like magic. You can now see like all that gorgeous detail, but I am going to bring it out even more. I'm just going to pull in that white wax again. I'm going in, making really careful, you know, I can't talk today, being careful to get into all of those little crevices and everything like that. And you want to work in smallish sections, you know, depending on what you're working on. And obviously the more you wipe away, the less you see. So it just kind of depends on, you know, the overall look that you're going for. It was so funny. I started these projects and I have a big thing of clear wax. And I actually, you'll see it's a project at the end. I actually coated a pumpkin. No. Just a little bit of a spoiler alert. There's a pumpkin in here. I covered a pumpkin in it and I was like, this is not giving me the desired effect. So I had to go out to Hobby Lobby and buy like the little tiny bottle of it. And I tell you what, I was like putting blinders on, trying not to look at the stuff, trying not to look at fall stuff because it's on sale and I love it. And I had to just avoid it. But here they are. Sorry, just talking through it all. But they're super, super pretty. Very feminine. I love the new look of them. So I've got this little plaque from Dollar Tree. It's a 5x7. I've already sanded it down and painted it in Shadow Sage. And I'm going in with that clear wax again, just going through and giving all of the kind of like the corners, the nooks, the crannies, a little attention with it basically. And I am wiping off the excess. Now it does not show up as much as I would like it to. I went with this Shadow Sage color instead of like the Waverly Moss, but I kind of feel like I should have done the Waverly Moss. It would have shown up a lot more. And now I've got some more of those rub-on transfers from they're folk art, but they're from the company of Plaid. You know what I mean. And I wanted to do it on all corners of it, but it just was not going to happen. So I applied them the same way I did on the first project. And now I'm just going to give my little plaque some feet to make it into a riser. These are from the Dollar Tree. They are from a little like brain teaser game. I thought that they'd be really pretty. I have a bunch of them that are also the like natural colored wood, but I liked the darker tone. I thought that that was like a good, you know, a good contrast basically. So now we're going to take the good old antique wax to the rescue. I was like, you know, you really cannot see that white wax for anything on this. So I went ahead and just pulled out the antique wax. I'm giving it, you know, a little bit more of a dry brush. A little more on the edges just because I was like, I want that to really pop you to really see that detail on there. And then I'll start with a much drier brush, kind of starting to go over all of the stuff on the inside. I'll dip in a little bit more just because I needed, you know, I was like, you can't see it at all. So let me just go a little bit more. And here it is, all finished up. I think it's just perfect, like little touch to add to this whole bunch of projects. So I have pumpkins. How can you have a fall video without pumpkins? Got these from the Dollar Tree. I got 3 of them and I'm just going to pull out this little leaf. and get it all ready, and I'm going to just spray paint it with some matte spray paint. That was a Sammy from Unicorn Dust Design tip, and I'm going to go through and paint them. I've got the Nantucket Blue, Shadow Sage, and Whispering Wheat. These are all folk art paints, and I had to do between 2 and 3 coats, just depending on the color. The blue was more like 2 coats, the other 2 were probably 3, just because it ended up taking a lot more to cover it than I kind of expected. So the Nantucket Blue, the white wax shows up like perfectly. Like, it's absolutely perfect. It's perfection. I tell you what, I'm loving the look of it right now. And like I said, I just kind of went around, I put on a pretty decent coat, wiped it off with a paper towel, and then kind of smoothed it out with the sponge. I know, guys, it's a lot of steps, but it just kind of depends on the look you want, you know, that kind of thing. You can also, you know, just dry brush it in the areas that you want to, you know, kind of show it off more in. It just really depends on you and how extra you are, I guess. Today, I was a lot extra. It was so funny. I made a few projects for this, and I was like, you know, it's just not quite done yet. And then I made one more, like, no, it's just still not done yet. So I kind of added on a couple here, a couple there, and I was like, I just need, I don't know. Sometimes I get in the feeling like, it just needs more. So again, antique wax to the rescue, and I've actually already done the white wax on these, and you see, you can't see it at all. So I'm just going in with the antique wax, just so it, you know, you can tell it's pumpkin. Otherwise it might look like an apple that's obviously not ripe. But I was like, I don't want any apple looking pumpkins. I want pumpkin looking pumpkins. Try to say that fast. It just does not work. All right, so like I said, just go ahead and coat those little guys with whichever wax you like the best, because it's going to look gorgeous either way. And I was trying not to go too crazy heavy with, you know, the antique wax, just because I was like, you know, this isn't super, super rustic. It's got a little bit of a country tone to it, you know, because in my mind, at least, these are French country. These are fall French country. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys will have to let me know. I kind of felt like these were like a little French country, a little shabby chic, a little cottagecore, maybe even. I'm going to throw all those titles in there. Here they are, all finished up though. I think they turned out really cute. And here it is all working so adorable all together. So we've got one of these boards. I got it at a thrift store, and it was 2 pieces, and it was 2 for $5.99. So I'm counting this as only $3. And I combined these 2 wood tints. One is walnut, one is gray, and you didn't really need to do that. And then I'm going to take my Couture surface wax, and I am going to just apply it all over. I used a paper towel for this. Word to the wise, you'll find out in a few minutes. This isn't the best application method. I have learned my lesson. But then I'm going to tape all around the edges, and I'm going to pull out my transfer so that I can get it all lined up. This is the mini buffalo plaid check. It's an 18 by 18, so this sucker is big. I went ahead and did all of my fuzzing. I'm going to try my best to use like all the right words. So I'm going to get it all positioned, you know, where I want it to be. It's one of those things, since it's a circle, I mean, can it really be wrong? Can it? I'm going to go with it can't. So, but I'm still trying my best to get it lined up as much as what makes sense. And then we're going to just take our chalk paste in Storm, and we're just going to smudge it all over the place. Now, this awesome 18 by 18 transfer is available, and if you're interested in it, let me know. I would love to help you pick out some different things and really come with like a good, you know, a good selection of stuff. Now, I'm going to let you know, obviously this transfer does not cost under $5, but as a designer, it cost me $18, and you can get probably 10 uses at a minimum off of it. So I'm going to count it as costing me less than $2. Maybe that's cheating, but I am not a rule follower. I really am, though. All right, so we're going to take the transfer off, and I'm going to show you. I messed up a little bit on the wax. I did not buff it in as much as I should have, and I definitely needed to let it sit as well. I have since used the wax and done it successfully. So I filled in a couple of spots that ended up having a lot of the paste come off, and then I'm going to sand it just to try to like get it to look right all together. And I did my orbital sander over the whole thing to kind of get that really worn look. I still like the way it came out. I'm really happy. I just kind of let the crafts tell me what they wanted to be today. And on the next one, I have a Dollar Tree pumpkin. And don't get mad at me. This was supposed to just be everyday farmhouse decor. But I had to throw in a little bit of fall because there's so many beautiful fall DIYs out there right now, and I just needed at least a couple little touches of it in this video. So I do try my darndest to get this thing to stick in the middle, but it was not working. The gap wasn't the right size for those little, beads. So what I'll do is I'll just put down a line of hot glue, and then I'll put my beads down. I wasn't worried about them being even across the top, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't mind them being a little bit off here and there. I kind of made sure they weren't too close. Like this one, I'm going a little bit lower. Some of the other ones will go a little bit higher. I didn't want it to look like they were off on purpose. I wanted them to be off on, I wanted them to look off on purpose, not to be off by accident. I think you know what I mean. If you want to make them as even as possible, I would recommend starting your little string of beads at the bottom. If you do it from the bottom and go up to the top, you can kind of make sure you're getting the same number of them all the way around, and I think it'd be more even that way. Once we're done with that and everything's dried down, I'm gonna just do a couple little touch-ups here and there if it needs it. And once that is finished and those are good to go, we're going to take out our Waverly Plaster chalk paint, and we're going to do two coats total. And especially on that first coat, what you want to do is really get in there, in between all of the grooves, get your paintbrush really in there. I found that a flat paintbrush seemed to work the best. Once you've gotten your two coats on it, we're going to move on to the good old antiquing wax. When in doubt, and it's farmhouse, just throw in some antique wax. There should be a slogan in there somewhere. I'm sure there's something in there for a slogan. And I'm just going to dry brush and pay really a lot more attention to where the beading is. And I'll still get in there and get on the sides too. I didn't want there to be like a real stark difference, but I really wanted to bring out that beadwork. And we're just, like I said, I'm just going in with it today. Everything's farmhouse. It's all going to be a little bit rustic. And how could you not do a pumpkin in August if it's rustic? Here it is. It turned out really, really cute. I'm loving it. Now I have one of these cutting boards. I have it saved from Easter. We're just going to take all of the, little pins off of the front side. And I'm honestly not too terribly worried about how I'm going about doing this because I'm not going to use the front. I am going to use the back, but I needed a flat surface. I'll give a full coat, not even a full coat, a very messy coat of the Waverly chalk paint and plaster. I'm going to try, you see at my first stroke of paint, I just didn't care. And then I was like, no, I should probably keep it somewhat in the same direction. And I got a little bit better. I'm using it like the very bottom of this bottle. That's crazy. This is that's my second bottle I've gone through. So that means I'm using it. And we're just going to go over all of it as best you can. Make sure you get along the sides and everything. I'm leaving some area not painted because I am going to go over it once it's dried with my orbital sander, which you can do by hand too, however you want to go. And I've got my surface wax again. Like I said, I did a much better job on this one. I've noticed, I think that sponge, it's just from Dollar Tree. It makes it a whole lot easier. I'm just going to give it a very nice good coat, buff it in, and then I'm going to let it sit for at least 10 minutes. Now I've got this gorgeous transfer. It's called Kitchen Rules, and it is from Couture. But not only that, but it is actually the Club Couture. What that is just a subscription service. It's $19.99 a month. You're gonna always get a 8x10 transfer. It might be a full size one like this, where it's the full sheet. It might be little parts here and there, and it's adorable. I love this one. I could not help myself. I usually try just to put one Chalk Couture project in, but I couldn't help it. I had to use this one. If you sign up for Chalk Couture or for the club in Chalk Couture, you're going to get this transfer and 3 pastes this month in August. And there's a really great promo going on right now where you can get 50% off on, I think, like 3 different surfaces if you want to pick them up. That's a better price than I get as a designer. So I would definitely recommend checking it out if you're interested. And it's really fun because you don't know what you're going to get. So you're going to get something directly from them. And it's so much fun to be surprised. Here it is though, all done. See, it didn't get ruined this time. And I felt like it definitely needed a little something more. The kitchen rules part did not fit. So I was like, well, let me add some twine. When in doubt, you're doing something that's farmhouse, you just throw some twine on it. Twine or antique wax. And this is just some leftover twine, from like a previous project that I didn't use it on or something. So I'm not even going to count that in towards my cost. So again, the transfer and the paste is $20 a month. You use them like 10 times. So I'm calling this project like a $3 or so project. It might be cheating, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. Here it is though, all finished up. I absolutely love it. Please let me know if you're interested and I will send you all the details. So here is another thrifted item. This little guy came from the same thrift shop as the first one, and he was $2.99. And I'm going to take some Rust-Oleum paint in chiffon cream, and I'm going to do a full coat on like the bottom and the rim, and then on the little spokes. Is that what you would call those? The part in the middle between the bottom and the rim. I do a pretty decent coat of it, and if I miss parts, I'm not real worried about it. Obviously, if you want like full coverage on this, spray paint might be the easier way to go about it, just because, those little, thin pieces are going to be a lot harder to get with a paintbrush if you want it to be fully coated. And I'm going to use like just about every distressing method known to man now. I've got it where it's still pretty damp, so I'm taking a rounded paintbrush and I'm going to get it wet, and then I'm just going to go in and wet all of that paint, and then I'm going to wipe it off with a paper towel. I don't know why I felt like I needed to do this much distressing, but I did. And now I'm going to take the wood tint from Folk Art in gray, and I'm going to give it a full coating all over the place on that. Put a little on, wipe a little off. Put a little on, wipe a little off. I tell you what, this little guy has, it's stressed. It's not just de-stressed, it's stressed. And like I said, I'm just going to go through and do the whole thing in this. And then, yeah, you guessed it, we're going to go into some antique wax. I don't know, it's just with this piece, I could not get it to look the way I wanted it to. Like, I want all of my projects to kind of flow together a little bit. There's a lot of different things and that I could have done with it, and I don't know. You never know. You may see it again in a video with yet another paint job. So don't be surprised if you do, just because I'm still not sure if I'm 100% in love with it. But I mean, I like the overall look it has with the projects. Here it is with some little styling, a little candle. It's not a real candle. That would be an awful idea with the moss. And now I've got some little fox from the Dollar Tree that is part of one of those make your own ornaments, and I am just going to Mod Podge some paper right on there, some scrapbook paper, and it's a really cute little buffalo plaid. It's orange, so it's cute for fall but still very farmhouse appropriate. Once it has dried, I go around and I'm going to just start cutting all around the edges. I felt like that was going to be the easiest option. It still wasn't easy. This little guy's got a lot of little grooves that are really hard to get into, but I was like, at first I was like, well, maybe sandpaper would be the easiest. And then I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get a teeny tiny little piece of sandpaper in between like the tail and the body. I just was like, yeah, this is never going to happen. So let me just trim it up and take, I think this entire time that it took me to do it was probably like a solid 5 minutes. So it took a little while. So we're just gonna assume that I finished it all and we'll skip it. All right, see, I've all finished that up, and what I'll do now is I'm just gonna get my little weeding tool and give him his little hole back. It's kind of a strange placement for it because it's in his head. It kind of alarms me a little bit, but I'm just gonna do a coating of some antique wax on the backside so it doesn't look so like, unfinished. Real quick, just douse it into some antiques wax and wipe it off. Have you noticed a common theme here? Today I am loving on my antique wax. I think I do that anytime it's like a farmhouse video. I'm like, well, of course, antique wax. Do you guys want to see more modern farmhouse? I really haven't done one of those in a long while, and I'd love to know if you're interested in that. Let me know in the comments below. So I do give just a little bit of detail all around the edge, just to give, you know, some more definition. He's got a lot of really cute little furry details. You know, the tail is adorable. I don't know what it is. That big fluffy fox tail is just so stinking cute. So, of course, we're just going to sand it down a little. Today was all about distressing. Once I've gotten that, it's going to kind of tone down a couple of the little spots and still, like, give him a little, like, rougher look to him. He's one bad A fox. That's his name. Bad, middle initial A, last name Fox. I've decided. And I am going to take out some of these beaded garlands from the Dollar Tree. Keep your eyes out. It is a fall thing. I ordered it off of their website probably a month ago. They're not there anymore, though. I looked the other day. They were not there. I'm going to just get as many as I want on there, and then we'll string it through our little fox with badly placed hole. Like I said, he's Bad A Fox. That's his name. So I can't get in trouble with YouTube because I said that's his name. Once it's all set, I'm just going to, you know, give it a good tug. And now we're going to make a tassel. If you've been here for a while, you know my tassels are nothing to write home about, but I think I'm getting a little bit better. Maybe not. You'll have to let me know if this looks like a better tassel than the ones you've seen in the past. I just string it around my hand several times. I don't count. I just go until it looks like the fullness level. And what's kind of nifty is on the bottom side of the beaded garland, it has a couple little pieces sitting there right ready for you to tie to your tassel. I was like, well, gee, this just looks like it was made to be like this. And I'll take that leftover side of it and, you know, put it all the way around. And I'm not a fan of tying it just because I feel like I can never get it right. So I add just a tiny little bit of hot glue and I'll just push it down, kind of mush it all together. Mush, it's a technical term. And then I will, you know, again, tie it again. I'll cut down some strings. I'll hot glue it. There's a lot of hot gluing in this tasseling making business of mine. Just because I always am like, I'm sure it's gonna fall apart, right? It's just twine. One knot doesn't typically do it, but there was not enough there to make two. You know, not enough twine to do 2 knots without. I don't know. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's getting late in the day. I don't usually do my videos this late in the day. And I'll give it a little haircut, which I don't know that really helped very much, but that's there. There it is, all finished. He's so cute, little fox. I have this piece of summerish decor from Michaels. It was on clearance. I paid $3 for it, and I'm just going to coat the whole thing in the Folk Art Nantucket Blue, and then we are going to start working on getting everything measured up. I believe this one is like a 6x6 square, and we're going to go into our design space to get designing on it. We're going to do a square. Big surprise, right? I like to do this just to kind of give us, you know, something to start off with, to know what size everything needs to be. You're just going to size up your shape, whatever it is. And now we're just going to make it super easy, and we're going to go into design space, and I'm going to type out fall. It's pretty easy, right? There's a lot of things to choose from. This is a monthly subscription-based service, but it's worth it when you don't want to come up with all the designs all on your own. And I kind of changed my mind at first. I was like, well, let me do fall. I didn't really find what I wanted. So then I did the word gather. That's kind of what the whole idea of this video is surrounding, this idea of gathering. I would love to say that we can all do that so much nicer now because COVID is going away, but at least it isn't where I am. But that's all right, because we are still getting into the time of the year when we're going to be gathering together and celebrating and everything like that. So I found this really cute one. It just says family, a place to gather. And this is going to be all for my table, my dining room table, and we're going to get everything centered. You can just do it really easily by aligning everything, and then it's pretty much ready to cut. Just go in and set it to make it, and this is on my brand new Cricut Maker 3. So I am using a mat on this one though. I don't have the smart material for this particular color vinyl that I wanted to use. And it's going to give you all your choices right here. And you're just going to go in and select your particular type of vinyl, not smart vinyl. I'm just going to use it on the premium vinyl. It's got a little bit of a glossy tone, so I went with that one. Once you've done that, you go over to your machine. It's going to blink a couple of times at you, and it's just going to feed it through just perfectly. The Maker 3 is a lot faster, and then it's going to ask you to hit the play button, and there you go. It's just going to cut your file for you, lickety split, and it's going to be done. Sorry, that was a weird comment. And I've got this lovely little light box here. Cricut sent that to me as well, and it's going to really help with your weeding if you hate it like some of us do. It makes it a little easier to see it, and like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and weed through this whole design, and it's a little bit more intricate, but it just, I don't know, I just really liked this, you know, particular design, so I went with it. Even though it's got a little more work involved to it, I think it was really worth it. They, you know, when you're doing designs like this and you don't have to come up with them, it makes it so much easier. There it is though, so you can see it's going to be absolutely adorable. I love all the little embellishments all around it. And next we're just going to get a piece of transfer tape, and I did stick it on my clothes a couple of times just to get some of the stickiness off, and then we're going to go through and varnish it, and I had a couple more spots I needed to varnish a little heavier. And once you do that and you just pull it up, just kind of, you know, do it slowly, that way you don't end up messing anything up. And we're going to get it nice and situated, get it placed. This really truly couldn't be any easier. I do, you know, pull out the ruler just to try and make sure that it's straight. They do have a specific type of the transfer tape that has lines on it. If you want to grab that, that would definitely help make that a little easier. And then I varnish it onto my surface and then just start peeling back the transfer tape. And we're not done yet though. I'm going to give a full coat of the clear wax, and now I'm going to do a coat of the white wax. This was a suggestion that I had from a subscriber on my last video, and she said that this will help make it to where your white wax really only stays on like your high points. And I wanted to give it this kind of like shadowy look to it. I don't know, not shadowy, that's probably not the right word, but you know what I mean. I wanted it to have that little bit of like that white cast. And I will just, you know, put it on a section and then wipe it away. And it's kind of really sticking to like the edges of my vinyl just to give it a little something different to it, you know. And then I'm going to take just, you know, a little dry brush and put it around the edges and also on the sides just to kind of tie it all in together. I did this same effect on some pumpkins that I made recently, and I wanted to be able to put all of this stuff together. And eventually it's going to be going out on my dining room table. And I've got a new channel called Home and Hauls with Theresa. And I'm going to be doing a decorate with me for fall pretty soon, so make sure you go check that out. But here's the project all finished up. I've got this wood piece from Dollar Tree. Now, mind you, this is going to come out probably in the fall time. It doesn't really matter what it has on it. It doesn't even really matter if it has these little details. I'll show you what you can do if you don't have this particular one. I went ahead and sanded it down, and I painted it and then didn't like it and then sanded it down again. So it's got a very worn look, but that's all right. That is kind of where I was going with this. And I'm going in with that same Nantucket blue, and I'm just going and doing a very, you know, it's a pretty thick brushing, but it's not like completely solid, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't going to go back and do another coat, but I didn't want to completely coat it because I am going for a little bit more of a rustic look on this one. The first one was a lot more solid, a lot nicer, you know, look to it. And we're going back into design space, and here I've already got my shape pulled out, and we're going to go into, you know, the different images and stuff that you have, and I'll show you a little tip on this one. I'm going to pick one out eventually. I know, like I said, I'm just kind of going through them, and sometimes I'll pick a few and then, you know, decide which one I like the best. But we're going to, like I said, I picked 2 just to see, play with it, kind of figure out what I want. And we're going to do this one, but we're going to ungroup it. And now we've got one part that says we together and one part that says gather. I'm going to size up my different parts of it. See, I'm going to do gather together, and then I'm going to get rid of that one. I decided I didn't like that one for this. Now, we lost our shape. Hold on. There we go. We are going to get the sizing, and we're going to make them kind of the same size. Maybe not exactly the same, but pretty close. If I find it. Let's see. All right. Sorry. I'm not doing it. I'm not talking it through as I'm doing it. This is already done, and I'm adding, you know, my voiceover after the fact. So I'll get it fixed all the way I want. And now what you're going to do eventually, sorry guys, what we're going to do is I was going to group it, and I was just going to cut the we and just not, you know, put it in the project. But then I remembered, actually Jamie taught me how to do this, where you're going to go into your layers and you're going to find the layers that are part of that we, and then you're going to just click on it, and that's going to hide it. And what I did just now is I put hide all. That's not what you want to do. You have to do it one by one, you know, finding which ones are the right ones. So the we is easy, obviously. And then see, it's there, it's gone, but we got a couple little dots to still go through. Now what you'll do is you'll kind of go through, you can click on it and you'll see it changes a little bit like in tone on the letters. You can see where it's doing that, and now we've got it just gathered together. So you can kind of customize it a lot easier doing it that way, and give it a try the next time you're on your Cricut. And then we're going to do pretty much the same thing, except I realized that I did not make them to where they're going to all cut in the same vinyl. So to do that, you'll just highlight it all like I did and do attach. Now we're going to go through the same thing in cutting out our vinyl. It's going to actually be the same vinyl, just to kind of keep everything nice and consistent. And I've already got it all situated on this, actually the same piece of the transfer tape. I just cut it down in half to make it fit. No need to waste it, you know what I mean? If you can use it more than once, you use it more than once, right? Some people save it and like use it multiple times. Usually I get mine, you know, to lose a lot of its stickiness, so I don't really get more than like 2 or 3 uses out of one piece, but it just kind of depends on you. Then it is mostly done, but what I'm going to do is this time, instead of doing the clear, I'm going to just do the white. I wanted a little different of a look. I wanted to keep more of that rustic bit of, you know, feel into it. I wanted to just try it a little differently. And like I said, I'll just go a full coating of the white wax that is from Folk Art. I got mine at Hobby Lobby, and you can get it either Hobby Lobby or you can get it at Joann's. I personally think that it's less expensive at Joann's when you have a coupon, because they still do like their 50 or 40% off. Or if you can't get a coupon on it, Hobby Lobby has the little bottles, and you can usually catch it when it's on like 30% off. And we just apply it on, wipe it off, and I think it really like amplified the, you know, rustic tone to it. So I was pretty happy with the result. I'll do, of course, the top, and I believe I do the sides. I think I don't think I ended up doing the bottom. I'm not really sure why I didn't, but I just didn't. I was like, well, you know what? It's going to sit on the bottom. And now I am going to use a couple of thumbtacks. They already had like a little bit of a hole in there from the, you know, the previous thing, you know, the previous little embellishment that was there. And then I'm just going to hammer it in some just to, you know, keep it in place. I'm not actually hammering it all the way, and word to the wise, hammer it all the way in, because what I end up doing is I am going to go over this with a couple of layers. So we're going to give it, you know, we're going to tone down all of that gold. I go first in with just a plain acrylic brown paint. Do that on all the edges. You could definitely sand them down just a little bit if you want to, you know, make it to where your paint is going to adhere a little bit better. And then I'm going to go in with just some gold paint from Folk Art. This is just in their brushed metal collection called Brushed Gold. And then we're going to go in with the good old antique wax. You guys know I can't go a whole video without antique wax. I do dry it down a little bit because I was like, I know it's just going to pull it up if I don't. So I'll just plop some of that on there. just to get, just to get that look that I wanted. I wanted that very like worn out, rusted almost look. You can get it with a couple of different choices. Here it is though, and it's all finished up. I've got these 3 pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to take all of this stuff off, and I'm going to just do about 3 coats of the I cannot talk, the moss colored paint from Waverly. That took a little bit of effort to get that out. And then I've already gone through and done a coat of the clear wax, and now I'm going in with a coat of the white wax. Now, what you may or may not be able to tell is these things have a ton of texture already in them. I'm so glad I've got a couple more of each of the shapes, the taller ones and the wider ones. I am holding on to them because I'm going to do something else with them. I was about to tell you what it was, and I'm going to keep it a secret though, that way you have to come back and watch it. But I'm going to definitely be going in and doing a couple other things with them. I've got a few ideas in mind. That is something different. Well, different than this. Probably not different than, the wild ideas out there. But so I'm going to do, of course, the fronts and the sides all around the pumpkin, and you can just do so many little things with these. They're absolutely adorable. They had the monograms, and I tell you what, one of them, I think the letter J, it was not interested in hiding at all. And here's how they turned out. Super cute. Now, as you can tell, it is not white. This is red. And so I did end up doing, originally I was going to do the plaster paint from Waverly, and I changed my mind as I was getting ready to paint it and decided on the Rust-Oleum Chiffon Cream. I just wanted that smooth creaminess, and it took about 2.5, 3 coats or so. And I took off the feet on the bottom because I wanted to make sure I couldn't see any of that red. And now we're just going to go through and do some distressing with our antique wax from Folk Art. I always want to call it Waverly. I have a big container of it that I still have not opened, but that's all right. And so I do go much heavier on kind of the edges. I really thought about making this more of that Nantucket blue that I've used throughout most of this video, but I wanted to keep this one a little bit more neutral just because it is such a good like staple, you know what I mean? Like it can just go on your table. You can use it for all kinds of things. Obviously it's not food safe anymore because I've painted it, but that's okay. If you wanted to, keep it to where you could use it for food, you could always just, put a paper towel in there or something for like bread or something like that. But I'm just going to reattach my little feet. They're just little rubber feet. I just like snap them off the bottom basically. Just some hot glue, and it's going to just finish it out and just make it absolutely perfect. You can't even tell that this thing was red. I will probably go in and actually do a coat of clear on top of it, which I haven't done yet. But here is how it turned out. I think it's just perfect for any time of year. And now we're going to do some leaves to go with our projects. We're just going to go straight into Design Space, and I am just going to go in and type in leaves. I'm going to type in leaves and just pick a whole bunch of them at random because why not, right? Just grab any of the leaves that you want. It's really easy, super fast, and I'm just going to cut them out of paper. I've got this really cute print paper, and that's going to be about how quick and easy this project is. So once we've done that, I do just pull them all off of my mat, and to do that I kind of like bent it a little bit in one direction and then used my scraping tool to kind of pull them off and just scrape away any of the extra little bits just to get it off of my mat. And here they are. They turned out super cute. I think it's just the cute little touch to add. We are starting off with one of these wood trays. I got that one at Michael's. You used your like 30% off coupon, and it's really nice price. I can't remember how much it is though. And I already did a full coat of the linen white chalk paint from Rust-Oleum, and now I am going in with my Chalk Couture surface wax because I am going to chalk on this baby, and it's going to be amazing. I've got this really fun country plaid stencil, and I am just doing my fuzzing right now, getting it ready to go on there. I've already taped up on the inside of the tray as well, And I am going to take my chalk paste in the color Shimmer Copper, and don't mind my head there, I was like really getting into this. And I am just going to smoosh this stuff all over that. That is obviously a very technical term. The shimmers from Couture are beautiful. I love them. And I don't know, guys, we're getting into fall time frame, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to add a little bit of sparkle. What's nice about it is it's a subtle, shimmer. Exactly what it's called, right? It's a shimmer. And it is just going to give it just that beautiful little glisten to it. Great for fall. It's going to be amazing come Christmas. If you guys are interested in anything to do with Couture, let me know. I hope you kind of figure out like if there's certain things you should order, if you want to become a designer or want to join Club Couture, just let me know. I'm happy to help. So when you peel it off, obviously it looks amazing. This is one of my favorite stencils, funny enough. I apparently loved it so much when I was ordering things that I ordered 2 of them by mistake. So I've got a lot of plaid stuff to make, you know what I mean? But it's the perfect time of year for it. And I got a little bit of it on my tray, but I'm just going to wipe that up, and I'm going to do a little distressing anyway, so it'll be just fine. It washes up really easily. So now I've got this other one. This is called Something Wicked. And I wanted just to use a little bit of the top part. I thought that was just a nice little touch, just a little bit of an embellishment for the side. I kind of thought maybe I should have done leaves, and I don't know, just a couple different things went through my mind on it, but I'm going to do that same exact chalk paste in there, just putting that little bit of detail on the front. There's so many different things you could do with this, and you peel it off and it is done and looks amazing. You could stop there if distressing isn't your thing, but it is my thing. So I'm going to just take in a little bit of the antique wax from Folk Art. I'm going through, just with a little mini chip brush from Dollar Tree, going around the edges a little heavier than the rest of it. And I'm going to do a little in like the corners because my transfer didn't get completely in the corners. I was okay with it though. I still think it looked great. And I'm going to do just a little bit of distressing through the middle of it, just so it has just that little touch of it too. Like I said, just enough to kind of, tie it all in together. So this is how it turned out. Absolutely love it. We've got just a Dollar Tree pumpkin. I went ahead and cleaned it off, tried to get that little sunflower to kind of fade into the background, and it didn't work. So I ended up painting it just with the Folk Art sheepskin. And since this is all plaids, I am just going to cover this puppy in some ribbon. This is ribbon from the Dollar Tree. It's a think a 2.5 inch wide ribbon, and I just cut some strips. I made them longer than I needed, but that's all right. And I'm just going to trim off the edging of it because the wire, I thought it would look kind of weird in what I'm going to do. You'll see in a minute. I am just going to coat my pumpkin in some Mod Podge. I definitely wanted to paint it, and if you want to give it an overall like darker look, you could definitely paint it a darker color. But I'm going to Mod Podge down my ribbon, and it's going to pucker in some places, but I really think that is just fine. It's probably going to do most of like that puckering up at the top. You're just going to either use, more Mod Podge, or you can even use a tiny little bit of hot glue just to fold down those puckers to make it look like it's kind of like folded onto the pumpkin. If that makes any sense to you, leave me a pumpkin emoji down below. So like I said, I'm just going to put down the Mod Podge. I do it obviously underneath it to help it stick, and then on top of it to give it a little bit more, security, kind of fix it in place. Make sure that your ribbon isn't going to fray. I'm going to do that all around the entire pumpkin. And the bottom doesn't look pretty, we'll be honest here. As your Mod Podge is drying though, if you keep smoothing it, that's going to help, get down any little bit of edges that's going to come up at all. And it's really going to help, especially up at the top and at the bottom. Once it is at least quasi-dry, I'm going to go in with some twine because that stem looks a little funny being just in that, that off-white color. And naturally, we're going to do this with some twine. On the bottom layer of it, I'm just going to go around my hot glue and put it all down just to give it something to, hold on to towards the bottom. Once you've gotten that done, you can start really just wrapping it around. It really depends on you. If you want it to be like really neat and tidy, then do it, you know, like row by row by row. Or if you don't want it to be neat and tidy, you just kind of go buck wild and, you know, wrap it all around the thing. I felt like it was going to be a little easier if I put Mod Podge down instead of kept hot gluing. So that is what I did. And I just felt like, you know, it gave it just enough of something to hold on to so it wouldn't keep like riding up and moving all around and all that. A couple little spots of hot glue though, it's not going to hurt, you know, to help secure it a little bit more. Once you've gotten to the top part, that's when you're going to probably want the hot glue versus the Mod Podge. And I'm just going to put my hot glue down, kind of hold it in place for a second, let it dry a little, and kind of keep doing that until you've gotten the stem pretty much finished. You can also start from the top and work your way down. Just depends on you, how you like to do it. As I thought about it after the fact, I'm like, that probably would have been a little easier to start at the top. That's okay. This is how I did it. Here's how it turned out though. I think it's so cute and not something you see every day. I have one of these giant mason jars from the Dollar Tree. I picked it up. If you want to see, I do also do hauls over on my other channel. I have Home and Hauls with Theresa. And I picked this up on one of those hauls. You can go check it out. But I did coat it in that same chalk paint, the folk art chalk paint in sheepskin. And now I did just one coat because I just really wanted to give it like an even surface, you know, to kind of work with. Those leaf details that you see at the top and the bottom from before I painted it, they do kind of like almost like indent a little bit, you know, like there's definitely a little bit of a texture left over. So when I painted it with the sheepskin paint, I slathered it on pretty thick. I did a very messy paint job, kind of on purpose to give it a different texture in a few different spots. So that way it wasn't so obvious. And you'll see a couple other things I do to kind of hide it and disguise it too. But I've got the galvanized tin part up for the top part of the mason jar. I felt like I needed a little something more, so I'm just going to stipple on some antique wax that I also dry brushed all around, you know, the top, the whole mason jar. And I'm going to take two different metallic paints. I got these both from Target. One is called Metallic 20K Gold, and the other one is Metallic Light Copper. I mixed them together just because I wanted a little bit more of like a coppery color. Like I feel like the light copper is too pink, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you get those copper colors that are way more pink than they feel like they are copper. So I'm just going to give a little bit of that detail around the bee and then go in with a little bit of that on my top part of my mason jar too. And now we've got some plaid paper because everything we're making today has some kind of plaid effect to it. I'm just going to cut it out, you know, just my scrapbook paper. I'll cut it all around. And it's just going on the backing part so that my bee kind of sticks out. That's the part that's going to give, you know, that you're going to see the plaid through. I'm just going to hot glue it down. You could Mod Podge it. You could use regular craft glue, Elmer's glue, glue stick, whatever you want. It's going to work out just fine because it's on the back part of it. All you really need to worry about is that it's secure and that it's not peeking over the sides because nobody wants the paper to be peeking around. And then next, we're just gonna, I had to think about what was gonna happen next. I am just gonna hot glue down that piece of the jar at the top. Be very careful because it's metal, therefore it gets really hot. You know, use your little spatula. I've got this lovely little berry garland from Dollar Tree. The vast majority of the stuff today is like Dollar Tree stuff today. I felt like a Dollar Tree mood. I am just going to use it at the bottom of my mason jar. Like I said, I needed to disguise some of that like leafing detail. So I'm going to take a couple of pieces. I believe I end up doing it actually 4 different little strips together. I'm going to just hot glue it on there just to give you something else to kind of look at, something to take away from any of that leafy design that you might see a little bit of. I was like, you know what? I need something to cover it up. And then I added, of course, a little twine bow. It's just like, I think 3 strands kind of tied together. Very easy shoestring bow. And some twine at the top. I mean, I was feeling the twine today. You know that? Sometimes you just need to add some twine. And once I've gotten, you know, an abundant number of of times wrapping it around, I'll just hot glue the back, and then I'm going to add another little bow to this. I was just, like I said, I was like the twine and the bows and lots of details on this mason jar. I felt like it was just cute. This is kind of what I was going for. Here it is, all finished up for you though. I think it's just a cute little addition to my tray. And I felt like I needed a little something more, so I'm going to take those two metallic paints. Again, I'm going to combine them. Eventually, or you're just going to look at them for a while. I'm just going to combine them like I did on the last project. And I'm going to paint the little candle. This one is some leftovers from last Halloween when I did a DIY with it. I just kind of took it apart and reused it. I'm going to take that same ribbon as I had on the pumpkin and I cut it too short. So word to the wise, cut more than you think you need, because I ended up cutting it too short. I didn't measure it out before I painted my jar, and I don't know. I was just in a little bit of a rush because I finished the other projects and I was like, you know what? It still needs something. And then I did this and I was like, oh, look at that, Theresa. It's like an inch too small. But guess what? We're going to make it work. I'm going to take just another strip. I'll hot glue the edges down. And at first I was like, well, that looks kind of funny. So I'm just going to end up folding it down and making almost like, I don't even know, almost like a buckle, but not a buckle. You guys will have to tell me, is there something to call this other than an obvious way I was trying to fix the problem? I just felt like I could almost make a bow on it, but then this is facing the wrong way to make like the middle of the bow. I don't know. I just kind of went with it, and I don't know. Sometimes you do that, right? You make a project and you're like, it just didn't end up the direction I originally thought it was going to, and I'm okay with the way it ended up though. I don't know. Sometimes that happens. Does it happen to you guys too? Sometimes they turn out really amazing, like things happen and you didn't intend. I'm going to just take a little of the antique wax and stipple it on. I had a subscriber recently on one of my videos told me my slogan needed to be, when in doubt, wax. Was it wax it out? Now I have to look at it again. It might have been wax it out or wax it up or pull out the wax, or I don't know. I have to look at it again. But yeah, like I said, I'm just going to stipple that all up on the top just to give it a little bit more of something, to look at. And again, with the twine, I'm just going to wrap my twine around. I wanted, again, something else where that little notch is. Obviously, you could, measure out your ribbon all the way to go all the way around. Or you could, if you make a mistake, it could be on the back. But like I said, I just kind of felt like doing a little something. And once that's done, I'll just make another little shoestring bow. I am going to do a double one this time. Super simple, super easy. For most people, they would probably do like a finger bow or something a little more complicated, but I am not a master bow person. So this was the way it was going to be. I think it still turned out pretty sweet though. I think it looks adorable altogether. Here's our end result with that candle. So we have this harvest garland from Pottery Barn for $149. I've got some of these Dollar Tree picks that are pumpkins. They came in like a 4-pack, and I just coated them all completely with some of this terracotta white paint. And now I'm just going to trim off all of these little leaf picks, also from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just start kind of pushing them into this wreath form, again, from Dollar Tree. And this wreath form and the picks all together, maybe $5 at most. So $149 it is not. Don't get me wrong, I am sure that the one from Pottery Barn is gorgeous, probably bigger than this, but it did not cost me $149 to put this together. So definitely check out the Dollar Tree for these white leaves. They're just absolutely gorgeous, so neutral. And I took a lot of these little pumpkin picks. Now the one I am finagling right now, it came in a different pack. I did the same thing. I painted it with that same paint color. And that one, if I can find it on my desk, is called the terracotta, and that is adobe white. You can get them at Hobby Lobby, you can get them at Michael's. Make sure when you buy them that you get them with a 30% off coupon because they are not cheap. I think it's like $4 a bottle, but again, if you use your 30% off, it's not too bad. And they do have really good coverage. And they give you a really cool texture, which you'll see in a few minutes because I'm going to use a lot of them. They were sent to me, a few of them. I think I have about half of my collection was sent to me, half of it I couldn't wait and I bought it. Now I'm taking some of these sticks. They're from a bundle that I have, some like dried flowers that I've kind of had sitting in my stash for a little while. And obviously, depending on the kinds of trees you have in your neighborhood, your yard, you can just pick them up off the ground and use them for the same thing. It's just in the wreath that I am trying to replicate, they had a lot of these kind of sticks, and I thought that wasn't going to happen. There's not going to be that much. And then these are in that same pack of all the dried sticks, just a couple little extra things just to kind of give it a little, a little something. Here's how it turned out, and there's the comparison. Like I said, it came out pretty good. And we're going to do this pumpkin from Kirkland's. On sale right now, it's just over $26. And again, we're going to use some Dollar Tree stuff. I've already filled in little holes, and this slotted pumpkin, again, you can get it at the Dollar Tree. I gave it a full coat of the Waverly chalk paint and ink. And then I am using this galvanized welcome sign, also from the Dollar Tree. I did just a full coat of Mod Podge and then went over that with the white Adirondack paint from Folk Art. I'm going to get my E6000 out and give it a few little dollops throughout on the back side of the galvanized sign, and then do the same with some hot glue. The metal, it does not like hot glue, it does not like paint, so you have to kind of work with it and kind of make it work, with whatever you've got, essentially. And of course I had like a little spillage of the glue, but that's okay. I'm going to take apart this little pumpkin sign, and I kind of broke it in the process, but that's okay. We're gonna make it work today. And you're just going to put some hot glue there in that little crevice, push your, slotted pumpkin in, and I'll add, oh, there's my head, sorry. I'm just going to add a couple of tumbling tower blocks to the back, give it a little added security so it doesn't go anywhere. Just so, like I said, it's going to be set. It's not going nowhere. Here's my project and our other one that I was replicating, and I need to add the bow still, but next, we're going to make some pumpkins. There's a lot of pumpkins today. Now, these ones from Kirkland's, they were more of a foam pumpkin. I'm going to use some more terracotta paint. They had that kind of look to them, so that's what I was going with. Now, on this one, I am going to do, I believe it ends up being like 2 or so coats. This first terracotta, sorry, I had to reach for it. This first one here is Terrazano Tan. I'm going to leave it listed for you below, though, all of today's paint colors, because I probably said it wrong, and that's okay. I'm just kind of showing you it goes on really nicely, and I'm going to do another pumpkin in this more of like a blue tone color, and again, I can't remember the name of it offhand, and it is Sea Stone. I do about 2 coats on both of the different pumpkins just to kind of make sure they're nice and opaque. You can give it a lot more texture if you pounce your paint on your surfaces. It just kind of depends on how much texture you want to get from it. I liked more of the smooth look to it, but that was just my preference. So you do what you like. And once we are done with our 2 coats on both of them, I felt like it kind of needed a little bit more. And we're going to go in with a little bit deeper of a shade on the same kind of terracotta paint. I'm just going to go over the stem on both of those pumpkins. And I'll be honest, I got a little messy. I wasn't being particularly careful. And on this one, I did more of like a pouncing to leave some of that darker brown because it just needed, a little bit more texture to it. There's a lot of texture, but that's okay. They make this one. This one is called Obsidian, and I'm just going to pounce it on again. Like I said, I just wanted to build it up a little bit more. My my 2 that I'm trying to dupe are actually a lot more of a monotone color, if that makes any sense to you. And I didn't really want to go that route, so I'm changing it up a little bit. I kind of kept layering on the stem just to make it more of what I wanted. And then I was like, I got some on my pumpkin. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with it. So I took it in and did a little bit of dry brushing around the pumpkin. And then I really focused in a little bit more in the creases. And I went ahead and did that to the blue pumpkin as well. Just because, like I said, I wanted just to build it up and get a little bit different of a look. And you'll see here the finished and the comparison. And I think I like mine better. And they're not foam. So, all right, we've got this one for $11.99 from Hobby Lobby. I'm starting off with another one of their more like wood tone looking pumpkins. I've done something similar to this already this year, but this one's a little different. And I loved the way it turned out, so I wanted to show you. I'm taking the Dollar Tree little beads, little sticker beads, and I'm putting them down kind of like the middle point, the high point on each little pumpkin area. I don't even know what to call that. Does that have a name? You guys will have to let me know. I'm going to take Folk Art, Sheepskin, and Waverly in Hazelnut. I'm kind of mixing them up together because I don't know. It was like the one was too dark. I didn't have, one that was a lighter color, and it ends up being this atrocious color when you're looking at it like this. But don't worry, we're working with it. I'm going to take some antique wax and some white wax. I mixed those two together, and I'm going to give it a layer of this now. I'm doing a pretty messy layering of it. I'm not doing a dry brush by any means, but I'm doing it kind of messy. That way, if some of that tannish colored paint sneaks through, it's all right. If it's more opaque, it's also all right. And like I said, we're just kind of layering things on today, and I'm kind of digging the overall effect that I've gotten today. And we're adding yet another layer. Now we've got the Waverly chalk paint in plaster, and at first I was like, I'm just going to dry brush it on. And then I looked at my, my dupe, my picture that I'm trying to dupe, and I was like, nope, it's not like that. It's not like that at all, Theresa. So then I was like, well, why not? We're just going to paint the whole thing with the plaster. Like I said, guys, today is just all about layering. And now I've got some, again, same thing. I've got a little deeper this time, I should say, the antique wax with the white wax. And now I'm going over mostly in like the little bubble beaded areas to give them, a lot more definition. Man, these things like pop out at you. You can see them. There's no mistaking it. They're there. And this one is funny. It's like I almost felt like this one didn't go as well with everything else. This one was way more in like the rustic direction. And the other ones before this, I felt like kind of went in like a cottagecore kind of feeling to it. So it was like I said, I was trying to do like cottagecore stuff. And I did this one and I was like, well, I'm just going to throw it in there because I like it. It's a little bit more eclectic today, but that's all right. It's all fall, it's all dupes, so they're all under $5, which is amazing. And I didn't use my Cricut, guys. Here it is, though, as compared to the original one. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. All right, so on this one, $44 from Magnolia. That is the one, the Fix It Up show that they have on like HGTV. And this one is definitely a lot more on the inspired direction because it's got a texture on the bottle. It's not the same size. It's a similar shape. So it's what I had, and it got it to the point where I could actually use something out of my like extensive collection of glass and ceramic stuff. So I went with it. I did 2 coats, probably about maybe like a little bit extra just to fill in any spots I missed, just because I felt like it needed it. And I love the red color though. I really didn't know if I was going to love it, but I do. Here it is. I just added some dried flowers. So we are starting off with one of this Bless This Kitchen signs from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to tape it off and paint the inside with the Waverly chalk paint and ink. And then I'm just going to take my painter's tape off. I've got the painter's tape listed for you down in my description box. That's over on Amazon. You can pick it up if you want to. This one works really nicely, as you can see, all of those nice clean lines. And then we are going to, of course, do a quick little coating of the surface wax from Couture. Sorry, my camera's a little shaky. And we're going to use the same transfer. We're going to use this transfer on all of our projects today. I am just taking some bright white paste, going over some of the wording. I am going to use this one with a little less of the transfer. Like I'm not using the whole thing. I'll show you another one in a few minutes where I do use the whole thing. But I wanted, obviously, I love, and it's so cute, right? I love that font. It's a very fun kind of thing. I do a quick drawing with my heat gun just because I am going to put down that transfer again, and I'm going to use this backing. It's actually from a Cricut decal, and it kind of works perfect because I didn't want to, you know, have the, you know, there's obviously, it might be a little bit of paste left up in that I love part. So I'm just going to use that to kind of keep my stuff safe. And I'll put the transfer back down, and I'm going to do my pumpkin. At first, I was actually just going to do the pumpkin, and it didn't work out that way. So here I am using the color Shimmer Copper. It's like just the most perfect color for fall, I tell you what. And like I said, I was originally just going to do the pumpkin. It didn't work out that way, so I just ended up doing the whole thing. And of course, I needed to use the other part of the transfer where it says anything. It fit like just perfectly. It's like it was meant to be. So I'll do that again using my little multi-tool. I'll have all of these tools listed below. I'm going to have like a link tree with all of my Chalk Couture stuff in it, so it's a little easier for you to navigate because I can add a picture, which is so helpful. And here it is, all finished up. I hope that you love it. So back into it, and we are going to do one of these little chalkboards. This is actually from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use this base. This base is from Chalk Couture. You could use just about anything though. I'm going to do a quick little job here of the surface wax, giving it a little coating. That's a good thing to do with Chalk Couture stuff, especially if you're using like the non-Chalk Couture projects like surfaces, or especially if you're using wood. That's something I would definitely recommend. And this stuff, a little goes a long way, and you just really have to like buff it in. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to give it a little different of a look. It's going to be kind of make it like a little bit like a slate looking piece. I don't know. You guys have to tell me in the comments below, do you think it looks like a piece of slate or just a chalkboard that got white paint all over it? But I'm using that same bright white paste as we did on the first project. And we're just going to kind of messily, you know, do a dry brushing. I just use barely any of the paste and wet it down a little bit just so it'll go on a little easier. It just, like I said, it was just kind of the way I was feeling today, a little scattered all over the place. And you could also use this more like a paint if you wanted to, where you actually just do a coating of it on something, and you can do that for any of them, any of the pastes. And you can use it to stain wood too. I haven't done it yet. It's on my list of things to do, where I'm going to use it to actually stain a piece of wood because it's food grade safe. And I wanted to do it for something like some kind of like cutting board. You'll see it eventually. I haven't done it yet. And here we go with our pumpkin I love you more than pumpkin anything transfer. And right now what I'm doing is I'm fuzzing it. You definitely need to do this a few times on like the first time you're using it. This project I did do first, so I am using it for the first time. And we are just going to do some of the blue. This is Colonial Blue. It's a really pretty, like muted tone, a little bit muted. I guess you could probably say it could get way more muted, but it's really close in color, in my opinion, to Nantucket Blue once you see it like in person. You know what I mean? Like, you know, obviously sometimes it's hard to tell exactly what things look like on film. But you use just a tiniest little bit of the paste, and then you scrape off whatever extra you have left over and put it back in the jar. Waste not. I tell you what, that is one thing I love about it, is you just really don't need to use that much. And you just put it right back into that jar. And don't mind my head, I was all into this project. One thing I'll say too is if you get any of like the little packets, you're going to end up having, a lot more paste than you think. What I just did there is I pulled it up because I didn't want it to dry too much, since I'm adding a lot more detail in all of these little spots on this transfer. What you do is you just peel it up just to the point, that you're done. So that way you have, you know, the ability to make sure that it doesn't dry out too much. And you've got my curly head right there. And I end up using the shimmer copper on that little banner, and then I'm going to go ahead and use it on the pumpkin as well. It's a perfect like shimmery copper color, which is probably, you know, good that that's its name. And then I'm going to do the more of the wording again in that colonial blue with my little mini squeegee. And we are just going to finish that up. Like I said, you take off all the extra off of there and have a napkin, like have a little paper towel or something like nearby when you're doing this, because no fail, you will get it on your fingers. You guys will have to let me know if you are a messy crafter. I am most definitely a messy crafter. During the process, after the process, my room, like I'll clean it a couple of times a week, and somehow it's just my messiness just ends up getting everything everywhere, either on the desk or just getting stuff out ready, prepped to, you know, to do my craft. It's just unavoidable. I've just come to the conclusion this room will never be clean. And the peel, and here it is. And I put it in that little base, and it's just perfect. It's a little hard to see, but I still like it. Last project, we have one of these gorgeous little pumpkin cutouts from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to do a full coat of the Waverly chalk paint in pumpkin. Imagine that. And we've got some antique wax. Now, you know, you could not see one of my videos without seeing some kind of wax in it at some point. Either antique wax or white wax, or maybe even clear wax somewhere. So I am just going to brush it in kind of like a circular motion a little bit, just trying to give that pumpkin a little bit of dimension to make sure you know it's a pumpkin and you don't think it might be an apple, because this is a pumpkin. And I decided I wanted to try a little bit with the paste. I've got just a tiny little bit of that eucalyptus paste. I used that on the last project too and forgot to tell you the name. And I'm actually taking the little bit of dry bits that were around the edges. I'll add some water. And then I am just going to do the same thing. I wanted to kind of bring in that color from the other project and also use it to give my pumpkin, again, a little more definition. And then I'll take that little bit of the antique wax to do the stem. And I end up needing a little bit more. Like I said, I have to use the antique wax in a project. I'm going to line up my transfer, and on this one, I am just going to do the love and the pumpkin. And if you saw it, I had a little hand, you know, come into the picture. That was my daughter. And this time around, see, there she is, the little hands there. Tell her to, you know, get her hand out of my camera. She does it on purpose. It's the thing, is she does it on purpose. So I do add a little bit of painter's tape this time, because even though, you know, the last time it worked out just fine, where I added in the leaves and stuff on the sides, like the little flourishes and everything, I didn't want the other stuff in this one. So I, of course, peel it back using, that was the colonial blue, same color as the last time. And now I'm going to kind of do that same thing where I'm going to just dry it off a little bit with the heat gun and add some of that like backing that I use on my Cricut so I don't end up pulling anything up. If you're gonna do like layers of chalk, you know, transfers on top of each other, you just have to add a little bit of that wax, which was an option too if you want to layer it. And I just add, of course, the colonial blue pumpkin. Why not? And I'm going to use a bit of this beaded garland from the Dollar Tree. I snatched this stuff up as soon as it went on sale on their site, so I have a whole case. And do me a favor, leave a pumpkin emoji below showing that you're still here. So like I said, leave that emoji down below. And our first project is by that one and only unicorn. We're going to be making some of these woodblock pumpkins. Now I've got 2 pieces of 2x4 already cut. I just kind of cut them however they looked like I wanted to cut them. I'm taking the Nantucket blue and doing this one. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually using some water. I just did like 1 dip of my paintbrush into the paint, and then I'm spritzing some water on it to really thin it out. I'm going to give it a lot more of a very rustic, worn down look. So this kind of worked out perfect so that I didn't have to use a ton of paint. And then I'm going to heat that, not heat it, but you know what I mean, dry it up with my heat gun. And I was kind of hoping for a little bit of a chippy, crackly, but it didn't happen. It's right though. I sanded it down with my orbital sander really nicely, just so I could see a lot of that wood grain. And I've got some crockery stamps that I got from IOD. Now I will list the actual store that I got them from. She's super sweet. She's in St. Augustine, Florida. And I got them really fast. So I'm going to list that down for you below. It is My Victorian Heart, just in case you're curious. But I just did that stamp real easy with the black ink, also from IOD. And I am going to take the spindle, I cut it down using my brand new miter saw, and I did a quick like sanding of it too, just to give it an even more like chippy look. And I kind of cut it at a slant. It was not on purpose, but I put it on there and I was like, you know what, it works out because the stem is, you know, it's a pumpkin stem. It's not going to be straight. And I was like, this is definitely a guy. I've decided this pumpkin is a guy and his stem isn't straight. Sorry guys, I can't help myself sometimes. It's late. I'm doing just a quick brushing of some antique wax on him because he needed a little something extra. Definitely needed it on the top of that spindle that I cut down. And I'm going to do it, you know, all over the place because when in doubt, wax it out. I have a subscriber that told me that one day and I can't help it. I just love it. Now I am going to add a little bit more detail to this guy in a little bit. As we get into the second DIY, you'll find out in a minute why I don't do it yet. So I'm just going to take some of this ribbon. It's just a lace ribbon from Dollar Tree. I thought about doing the raffia. I tried it. It did not like me today. Sometimes your craft stuff has a mind of its own. Now I've got this other one. It's a little bit smaller. This one is in the Waverly chalk paint in plaster. Did it pretty much in the same way that I used the Nantucket blue. And now this one I am going to go ahead and Mod Podge on some paper, and I put it on the wrong side of it. But like right now, the top that you're looking at is supposed to be the bottom, so it's a little off, but that's okay. We're gonna fix it. I'll show you in a minute. See, I put it down and I was like, oh, here we go. We'll just line it all up. And I did it and I was like, that didn't end up working out the way I wanted it to, but it's all right. So I put down a good coat of Mod Podge, and I mean like you need like a good amount of it because this stuff is a very thick paper. I do get it eventually, and I'm just going to trim it all off since I put it kind of on like the wrong side. I don't even know. I wanted that paper edge to be much closer on the side that was supposed to be my top instead. That way when I cut it down, I didn't end up with like a lot of weird markings, but that's okay. I am going to do it again. I'm going to add my antique wax, and I'm going to do it all over this one because I really want all of that detail to come out. And I love the way it turned out because it gave a lot of that antique wax, but then you could still see a lot of the shine from this paper. It's a lot of shine. And then here I am drilling down a hole and I mess up. I thought I had it centered so you could actually see, but I ended up messing up and didn't put my hole far enough over to one side. It's the way it works, right? So here I am trying to fix it. And I end up saying, well, you know what? This guy has two sides, so we're going to just do it on the other side. Luckily enough, I didn't mess it up on this side. So I just drilled down into the block of wood. Try to make sure you're going straight down or you'll end up at a slant like I did. And I have this little knob that I got from, I want to say Hobby Lobby on clearance. And I thought that would make a really cute, like different, a different stump. Pumpkin stem. I don't know why. I was trying to tell somebody about something earlier about a pumpkin stem and I couldn't for the life of me remember the word. So I end up working my way into getting the right size and I finally got it, but I wanted to add a little bit more antique wax because it didn't have enough. The other side had enough. So I just pushed that back down on into my little pumpkin. And there they are, all finished up. I'll show you in a minute how I end up getting that darker look. Now this one is more of a technique. It is from Crested Perch. She has a store, she has an Instagram, and she has a very small YouTube channel, and I hope that changes after this. So I've got this little milk crate kind of thing. It is from, I'm trying to remember if it's Hobby Lobby or if it's Michael's. It might have been Michael's when they did like their big like summer clearance or something. Anyways, I think it was like originally $15. I got it at least 70% off because I don't pay full price if I can avoid it. I do a pretty decent coat of the antique wax around the inside of the rim and on the outside, but I'll be honest, I could have skipped it because I'm going to do something completely different with it. All right, so I've got some, oh, if you didn't figure that out, I'll tell you what it is later. We're building up to it, everyone. All right, I've got some air dry clay. I got it off of Amazon. I'll list it for you linked below if you're interested in it. I don't know how great it is, like longevity of the container, because I just opened it and I roll it all out, and I had to roll it out again because I messed it up. But I'm actually just using, this is like from a roll of contact paper. It's not really a technical tool, but it worked out. So I'm going to take my crockery stamp, and this time I'm going to put a little bit of cornstarch on it because it needed something to keep it from sticking. And then I'm just going to roll it over everything with my little makeshift rolling pin, and I'm then going to take the, it's like the sharp end of this little tool. It's in the Crafter Square section at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to line it all around. That way I can pull off all of my clay. Be careful if you do this because it's got a sharp end, and that's the end I was using, and I have it like right on top of my, silicone mat, and I was like, you know what, the very first time I got like the last one I had, I put a little hole through it. So be careful not to do that. But eventually I do end up getting it, and I should have put some cornstarch down. It's all right though. I ended up peeling it up just fine. Now I am going to lay it on my little milk crate thing just to give it its shape. I did fix it. It was a little wonky. What I should have done here, I should have actually glued it down already, like while it was drying. But it's all right. It ends up working out fine. So I'm going to take the Nantucket Blue and I'm going to do a full coat of this. And I liked the pointy end brush. I'm sure it has a real name. I don't know what it is. But I liked using that particular brush just to kind of get into all of the little crevices. And that's really what you want to make sure you do. I let it dry completely. Oh, by the way, I did let this air dry clay go all the way overnight to get really dry. Now comes the fun part. We are going to mix a tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide, and I want to say it ends up being a half a teaspoon of salt and an 1/8 of a cup of vinegar. I had to think there. I'll leave all that below. And you get that all nice and mixed up. There I am with my mask protection for the next part. So this is basically the part that I got from my video that I watched from Crested Perch, where she uses this iron powder. I'll have it linked for you below. Does like the smallest little bit of it, and that's why she said to make sure you wear like a mask. I probably did like super overkill, and you probably could have just worn like a regular mask that we all have, many of them. But then I like had the gloves and a couple of extra bags. Basically, if you breathe in the iron powder, it's not good for you. But she said once it's in the liquid, you're safe because it's got the, all of the stuff isn't in the air. And I did it outside because I wanted to be like super, super safe. Now that it's all mixed in there together, I'm back inside with my air dried clay, little mold, makeshift mold. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little foam brush, and I am going to kind of like go in and dab it. I'm just checking to see like, do I have this stuff on the brush? Because obviously you can't really tell. It's a black brush and the iron in the cup is dark. So anyways, what you're going to do is you're going to take it, and what I found to be the easiest way is angle your cup so you end up with most of the liquid on one side, and then start patting your foam brush into like the powder, not the powder, it's not powder at this point, but the sediment. The sediment at the bottom of the cup is what you're trying to get. So as you can see here, it is, I zoomed in for you because now we're taking this little spray bottle and we're actually going to spray it. I cannot remember if I told you how to make this. I'll leave it listed below. This is a little bit different. This is where we've got basically all that same stuff that we did in the beginning, and it's just in a spray bottle. Sorry, I hit it. I hit the camera with my head. Anyways, this one has got the peroxide in it, whereas before it did not. I'll leave all the measurements for you below, and of course the original video link. And when you spray it, it's actually like activating that iron, because the peroxide is what is going to give you the iron. It's going to actually like rust it. And then I had a bunch on my tray and I was like, I am going to rust everything. So I added some to my pumpkin and it gave it such a nice, like, warm tone. This is going to probably be like my new favorite thing to do, especially on, you know, trying to give that like aged effect to wood. So I hope you like it because you're probably going to see it a lot more often now. I ended up throwing some of it on this little container because it wasn't quite, it looked too new. You know, like I just made this gorgeous little label, you know, to put on it. And then I have this thing that's almost dark white. It wasn't going to work for me. Now, I will say on that little label, what I accidentally did, well, not really accidentally, I did it on purpose, but it didn't turn out exactly the way I expected. I ended up adding some polyacrylic to seal it, and it got kind of gooky. I don't know if it got that way because it's an older container, it's been outside, it's been just all kinds of things. Or if it's just because it was getting like, it settled into the, you know, the little nooks and crannies. It ended up being okay because it gave it a totally another like element of old. Anyways, so as you can tell right here, I've sprayed on the little thing that activated the rust, and then I started wiping some of it off because I thought, like, I don't really like it, it doesn't look right. And so then I was like, oh no, I like this, I'm gonna just rub off some of it. So it still gives it that aged look. It's not quite like super stark brand new, so I was going for it. Then once that is all done, I am going to go ahead and just get some glue, and we're going to glue it on. I do, of course, add some of this more like super glue kind of thing. I can't remember. It's something like that. I'll leave it listed for you below. And then I am just going to add some florals for the season, and it's done. On to our last one. There's kind of like a twofer in here, and these are very loosely interpreted ones. So this is from my friend Jamie over at What's Jamie Making. And what we're going to do here is first I'm going to stain this little block of wood. I've already sanded it down. I'm going to mix two of these. These are the wood tints from Folk Art. One is in the color gray and one is in the color walnut. I imagine you can figure out which one's which. I mix them all together, and then I'm going to just kind of do a little shake. And it's not quite the right color. I'm like, no, it's still a little too gray. So I add a little bit more of the walnut and I'll stir it up. And then it ends up being like the most perfect color. It's like the walnut color that I love, but not so dark. It's perfect. I love it. I mean, I was like, man, I should mix this all together and make like one happy color. Anyways, painting it all on with a brush. What's great about this stuff is because it's water-based, it dries like super, super fast. I'm going to take some of my wax from Couture. It's a surface wax. When in doubt, wax it out. I'm going to just put that on there, and basically what that does is that is going to help kind of seal everything in, keep your transfer from picking up all that wood grain and all that, and also make sure that you're going to end up putting down your chalk paste much smoother. I am taking the color Colonial Blue, and I am just going to smooth it all over the place, and it's going to give us this really pretty look to it. This is the Country Plaid transfer, by the way. Is an 18 by 18. This sucker's huge, but We're not done yet. Next, because it wasn't quite French country enough for me, I needed to go ahead and get one of my little mini French country transfers. By the way, they're perfect if you loved the crockery stamps. It gives you something like a little extra. Speaking of extra, Deborah, you are the winner from that giveaway we did back with the last time I did a big Couture video. Make sure you reach out to me. You've got 48 hours. And yeah, reach out to me. All my info's down below. I wanted the little wreath. That was kind of part of my like, hey, it's a wreath. It's still got the wreath. It's still on the, you know, that was from my like my inspiration from Jamie. And what I did here is I just covered it all up in painter's tape because I wanted the wreath, but I didn't want the little part in the middle. And what I'll do is I'll smooth all that down. I kind of made sure it was mostly in the middle. And now I am going to get some more chalk paste, but a different color. I am going with color Camel, and I'm just going to use my little multi-tool with like the tiniest little amount, and I needed even less than this, to be honest. I'm just going to smooth it all around. Don't mind my sunglasses head in your screenshot there. Don't mind it. Anyways, I'm going to smooth it all around, and then I'll just take off any excess that is there. I'll peel my transfer back. And there you go. See? It works out just so nicely. After I get all that cleaned up, I end up drilling my hole pretty much the same way I did on the other pumpkin. I put down this little teeny tiny spindle. It's actually, I've got like a million of these little spindles off of like a couple of antique things that I got a while back. And then I was like, you know what? It definitely needs something else. I had actually colored or dyed some Sola Flowers. Same method. I apparently left all of that footage out. I have it, and I left it out. And it's all right, though. I'm going to leave Jamie's channel linked for you below in the video where she actually shows like a really nicely done like way of showing you how to do it, measurements, and all of that. Originally, I was actually going to do this little white flower with it. I ended up switching it around for a blue, and I even did the rusting technique over it because it was a little too bright. Once I did that, it's like perfect. All right, so we're starting off with one of these amazing signs from the Dollar Tree. I could not believe it. This sign doesn't have any glitter. Like there's nothing, no glitter at all. Can you imagine? So of course I'm just going to clean everything off of the back. I, took off the little hanging signs underneath. I'll save those for another project, and taking off the sticker that was like super stuck. And then we're just going to sand off all of the little bumpies on the back. And I've got 2 of these palettes from Dollar Tree I'm going to cut up. All right, so when we're cutting our stuff, what we're going to do is you're going to take one of your palettes and you're going to cut this in half. Now, you might not even have to do this if you have the smaller palettes. I don't. You're going to cut it in half, and then you're going to cut off the excess. So like this little cross beam, you cut off the excess in the middle. You've got 2 halves. We're going to use those. And then what I also did is I cut one, and you just basically need some blocks. So what I did is I just cut off this little cross beam. It was here, and I cut this part in half and then cut off the cross beam, and did that for 2 on each side because I need little gates. And you could do all of this with popsicle sticks, scoring with a craft knife, or cutting with scissors if you are using popsicle sticks. This is just what I have. This is what I wanted to do. So now that everything's cut, I'm just going to sand everything down, and I'm going to get my antique wax from Folk Art. I'm going to take a little paper towel, dampen it a little bit, and use that as like a makeshift like baby wipe because I don't have any. I need to buy some more, and that's okay. And I'm just going to apply some of the antique wax, and my paper towel starts to completely fall apart. So I decided to go in with a brush, especially in like the little cracks, the little, indents, little areas that are a lot harder to get to. I water it down just a little bit so that I can get it kind of to smooth over everything a little easier. Once those are done, we are going to just start to assemble my little crate back thing. I don't really know what to call this. The little crate that's going to sit on the back of the truck. I'm going to do some wood glue and some hot glue. Sorry for the headshot you just got. And I'm just going to start kind of putting it all together. You're probably going to see a couple of headshots. Sorry, guys. Again, a combination of those two glues. We're going to use those two longer pieces to make almost like a little bit of an L shape, and then we're going to glue on the little extra pieces. I don't really know what to call all these different pieces, so I'm just going to continue to call them pieces, apparently. And we're just going to go ahead and glue everything all together. Now on that first go around that you saw, I actually did not care for that, so I'm going to flip that off, take off all of the extra hot glue that's on there, sand it down a little bit here in just a second. There you go. See, I got my little sanding block. We're going to sand that down, get any of the little bit of glue remnants off, and we're going to try it again. Add my antique wax just so I can keep the same coloring, and I'm just going to add that other stick right on. It's almost like everything's connected and it bends and moves with it, even though obviously it does not. So it's like basically I was making it to where it was like a continuation of itself, even though it's quite obvious that it's not that way because that's not how it was made, but that's all right. So once we've gotten our little makeshift crate finished up, sometime today. Oh, nope, I still have one more piece to do. They kind of started to not really fall apart, but kind of wanted to bend away from where they were supposed to. So I went ahead and added a little bit of hot glue in all of the corners. Now I have this little farm fresh wood cut out from the Dollar Tree, and it comes in like a pack of 6. Unless you're like me and somehow you magically got 2 of the same one in a pack. I covered that entirely with the Waverly chalk paint in plaster, and now I'm going to go over that with just kind of like a dry brush, maybe a little bit more than a dry brush, from the wood tint in the color gray, also from Folk Art. Sorry, shaky camera. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue that on there because I thought that this was going to be the most adorable little addition to it. I mean, I have to be really honest. I'm so excited about this DIY. I thought it just came out so stinking cute. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing that I did on the other wood pieces, where I do the wood glue and then the hot glue, just to give you that, immediate hold, long-term hold, all kinds of different holds. And we're going to do the same thing when we're ready to put it on the back of the truck. Be careful when you're doing this because it's really easy to put it in the wrong spot. I put it in the wrong spot to begin with, but then I ended up taking it off and fixing it. So right now you're seeing it kind of in the wrong spot, but that's okay. Just pretend I put it further over to the right. I ended up taking it off and fixing it. I have one of these little rectangular, I think it's like table decor is what it calls it. I'm not sure. And I take off the little wood block, not even wood, MDF block in the back and put it on straight. That was the big problem. It wasn't straight at all. I'm going to add some hot glue onto the back of the tires, press it in there really nice, and then I'm going to do some kind of like an extra hold on it. It may not have even needed it, but that's all right. I'm going to trim off some of the popsicle stick and put that down on the truck part, and then I'm going to trim off the rest of the popsicle stick and use that as like my hold on the actual box. Basically, there was too much of a gap between the box and the truck, so that is why I kind of doubled it up like that, because like I said, it's just too much of a gap. It wasn't working. It was going to be, I was afraid it was going to like pull the whole thing back and it wasn't going to work for the extra stability that I was looking for. Once that's done, we're going to start kind of filling everything in. I have some raffia from the Dollar Tree. This stuff is, I don't even know. It's not the easiest to work with. I'm going to put this in like the same category as their Spanish moss because it gets everywhere. It makes a big mess. So consider yourself warned. This stuff is a mess. I'm not really sure if there's another thing out there that would kind of work for it, but I wanted this like hay look, which is really what the raffia is doing for me. So I'm just going to go with it. Now you'll notice those little blocks of hay. Those are Dollar Tree as well. A little tip for you, go ahead when you get them and you take them out of the package, spray them down with some aerosol hairspray. That's going to help keep all of those little bits in there because they want to all fall apart and you don't want that. And now I've got a few different pumpkins. I decided to kind of mix it up with some of the orange, some of the white. I believe the orange ones I picked up at Dollar Tree last year. I haven't seen them yet. That's not to say that they're not out there. And then I have these little white ones. I want to say that I got from Joann's last year. They were kind of just sitting in my stash, so it kind of went with it. And once I've gotten everything all sorted in there, here it is. It turned out so adorable. I absolutely love it. All right, on to our next fall DIY. All Dollar Tree stuff. I mean, I'm just blown away by by myself today. I don't want to sound so conceited, but I kind of can't help it because they're awesome. All right, I've got 4 of these little crates. They are the ones with like the little drawer almost. And I went ahead and sanded everything down. And now I'm going to add a hefty amount of wood glue, and then I'm going to add in my hot glue. Kind of the same idea. We're trying to get that long-term hold, immediate hold, the whole thing. I'm going to clamp them together, and I have a few different boxes. I don't know. It's Dollar Tree, so I'm going to blame them. But one of these 4 are not the right size. And so I was trying to make it work. And you can definitely fill in all of these little gaps that you see. That would give you a much more seamless look to it. It all depends on what you want to do with it. I decided not to do it, probably mostly for time, to be really honest. Once everything is completely clamped down, sorry, I hit the camera with my head. I'm going to take this poor little wood snake toy, rest in peace, little snake. I am just going to trim off the head and the tail on this because I need him not as a snake, but as a handle. I'm kind of just finding out which side I want to go with. And before I do that though, we are just going to paint the entire thing in Waverly chalk paint and plaster. And then when in doubt, we are going to wax it out. If you've been here for the last couple of weeks, you know that that is one of my subscribers kind of mentioned that should be like my slogan, and I kind of love it. So that's what we're going with. I've just got the same antique wax that we used on the last DIY. And let's be honest, it'll probably be in just about every DIY I ever do. And I'm just going to brush that all over the place, making it very rustic, very worn looking. This, if you didn't recall from the thumbnail, this is going to be kind of like a milk crate. Obviously it's not like the traditional one. I looked it up, pictures of it, and it should have been either white or metal, more like a basket. But that's okay. So on my handle, aka the poor unfortunate rest in peace snake toy, I did the Waverly chalk paint and plaster again, and then I went over it with the antique wax as well. Now we're going to get out our trusty wood glue, and I am going to do a generous amount of that and my hot glue, trying to make this little guy sit up on my crate. I would not suggest that you use this kind of handle for anything other than decorative. It's not going to hold. I'm just warning you now. So I've got these bottles that I got from the Dollar Tree. They are absolutely adorable. I'm going to do 4 of them in the folk art white Adirondack, and then I'm going to take my antique wax and go over all of them just to bring out all of those details, and they are amazing. I can't get over them. They're like, they say something about heritage milk company, and the back of it even says like to return it to heritage company. I mean, the detail in it is adorable. I cannot get over how much, like how surprised I am that you get something like this from the Dollar Tree. Here's how it turned out though. It turned out amazing. I just absolutely love this. It needs a little pop of color. You guys will have to let me know if it needs like a little label on the front. All right, so I've got a segmented pumpkin from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to just do a full coat of the plaster chalk paint again. And now I've got this adorable fabric from the Dollar Tree, and I am actually taking a metallic paint marker, also from Dollar Tree, and it actually worked out really well because it doesn't really like sink into the fabric too badly, so you can't really see it on the other side. So that is why I chose this one. And I am just basically stretching my fabric out and tracing along all of those little grooves so that I know where to cut it. Keep in mind, obviously, since I'm doing it upside down, you're going to have to flop them around, if that makes sense. Once they're all cut out, I'm just going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to start in a small section at first. Now, when you're placing it, you can really stretch it to make it fit a little bit better. It is definitely better to cut it a little bit too big versus cutting it a little bit too small. And the fabric is a lot more forgiving than scrapbook paper is, especially if it's a thin scrapbook paper, just because, you know, you can put it down and smooth it out. It does not wrinkle like it would if it was a thinner paper. And I'm in love. I'm absolutely in love. And I'm going to do this for each different little segment. Once you're done with that, I'm going to go through and cut down a little bit of it with some scissors. Now, another little tip for you, once you have gotten it completely trimmed around, you can either do this with scissors or you can just leave it the way it was, meaning don't do what I'm doing right now. And what you can do is you can go ahead and put down your Mod Podge, and then you can go around with a little bit of sandpaper. I used this really teeny tiny little piece of sandpaper and kind of roughed it up and all of that. And then naturally I'm going to go in with some more antique wax, and I'm going to kind of give a little bit of a shadowing to all of the little cuts into the pumpkin with the antique wax. And then once I do that, I'm going to go around all of the edges of the fabric with it. And I had some little spots a little bit, you know, left in there, so I went ahead with my lighter candle light, you know what I mean. I went ahead and just kind of trimmed off a little bit, and I've got a buffalo plaid ribbon because there isn't enough buffalo plaid in my life right now. I needed a little bit more. I needed it obviously to cover up the hole because who wants to see that? Nobody. I'm just going to give a couple little ducktails on there, add my hot glue, put it on the top, and it is as cute as can be. By the way, this is my Jamie pumpkin. She is my friend from What's Jamie Making. She loves all things teal and buffalo plaid. So that's my Jamie pumpkin. So speaking of my friend Jamie from What's Jamie Making, she's actually my very good friend who does chalk couture, who introduced me to chalk couture, my latest obsession, and we're going to get into that right now. I just did a coat of the plaster chalk paint, and now I have put down my transfer. This is just adorable. I can't get over how cute these things turned out. I'm just going to make my own color, adding the colors Currant Jam and Orange Peel, both from Chalk Couture. Surprise, right? And I am going to use those, that like little combo color on all of my lettering. It gives it a really pretty like burnt orange, like really burnt orange. It's a little bit on the red side, but I am kind of loving it. I was really feeling the traditional, fall colors on this particular DIY. I'm going in with orange peel right here on the main part of the transfer, and I went back and forth. I was thinking about breaking it up a little bit because you can do that with all of these transfers. If you don't want to make it all in one piece, you can use it on different elements, different pieces, break it up, combine different transfers to make what you want. Just tons and tons of different possibilities. Now, at first I was going to do black on this little arrow, and then I decided, I was like, that's a little too harsh. Nothing in this is harsh. So I did the storm color. And if you notice, I got a tiny little bit of bleed through on the lettering. It's definitely operator error. And so I used the board eraser just to clean it up a little bit, and then added in my paste, my chalk paint back in just to, you know, kind of blend it all back in. Once I am done with the actual sign itself, I'm going to take apart a couple of these little pumpkins, and I pulled apart my stem. Yeah, I don't know. So it wouldn't come out easily by just pulling on it, so I pulled out the pliers and pulled it apart. I apparently do not know my own strength. I lift things up and I put them down. If anybody knows where that comes from, I wouldn't be able to tell you if you're right or not, but I don't know. It's late, guys. Sorry if this video is a little bit more funny, Theresa, than you're used to. It's kind of late. This was a last minute decision video, and I'm loving the way everything turned out, but by the time I've gotten to the voiceover, it is very late at night, very far past my bedtime. But once those pumpkins are ready to go, I'm just going to add my hot glue, glue them down to my little sign, and here it is. It turned out really cute too. I can't get over it. I'm sorry. I'm tooting my own horn here, but I think everything's adorable. All right, last one. Who doesn't need a beaded garland? So I've got this little acorn. I've already stained it in a combination of the wood tints in gray and walnut. And now I am going to add this Couture transfer. It is a part of another transfer. I'll have everything, of course, listed for you below, and all of my Couture links in the link tree, in the description box. That's a lot of places to go for, but just go in the description box. Everything will be there. And it's not obviously made to fit on a Dollar Tree item, but it kind of fit almost perfectly, at least close enough. I'm going to show you how to make it look like it would fit perfectly. And I'm using, again, the same color, Current Jam. It's a really pretty burgundy color, and here's the peel. It's coming, guys. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again. I'll never make this sound like I'm trying to sing because I can't sing. But it turned out really pretty. I absolutely love it. So once I am done with that, I'm going to take the same paste and kind of just go through and fill in any of the little areas that it did not cover. You know, the transfer itself obviously didn't cover everything because it wasn't made for this. Couture actually does make all these different shapes perfectly. You know, they have the cutouts that you can purchase, but if they fit on a Dollar Tree item, why not? I will suggest add a little bit of water to your brush, and it makes it a lot easier, glides on perfect. I'm not going to walk you through the torture of watching me make this garland because it was rough, but here's how it turned out, and it looks amazing. I cannot believe you guys made it this far. That was a lot of DIYs. Thank you so much for checking out this video today. I am going to be working really diligently over the next week to get ahead on some videos for you because I am going to be renovating my craft room. I have been thinking about it for a while, and I'm gonna just go for it. I can't wait to show it to you when it's done. And thank you everyone for showing me all this love and support. I truly appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you next time.